I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 9, Episode 1 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast, slated to come out on April 20th, 2026. And we're just going to get right into it. We're back from being off on break. We made some brews. We did some things. We'll talk a little bit about that. But today, we are going to be looking at the Bludacris Blueberry Lemon Cider from City Cider Works, which is a local cider works in North Carolina. So might not be able to get it in your area, but yeah, it's a 6% ABV, and it doesn't have any copy on it that says anything other than it's ludicrous how delicious this blueberry cider is. So let's just see what you think.
It is really good. I think it's a nice sweet cider. You know, it's not too dry. The blueberry lemon's a bit of a combination. I like it, but also before you read off what it was, I was struggling to place it. It's a good flavor. It's like, it feels very citrusy because of the lemon, and then it feels very, like, dark because of the blueberry, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was thinking originally, like, is this blood orange or something like that? This is definitely citrus, but it's deeper than I expect citrus to be. So, like, I don't know. It's a good flavor. I think if you're, like, a person who loves blueberries, and I'm a person that loves blueberries, you would maybe pick this up because you're like, oh, there's going to be like a huge blueberry flavor in there. I think it's too acidic for you to really taste blueberry, but the flavor you get is good. Like, that's not a point against it, just a clarification. Come into this thinking like, I'm going to have a really nice citrusy cider that's going to have a good flavor.
Yeah, I wouldn't not drink this if I had been given this, but this is not my favorite. So it, like, when I lift it to my nose, I taste that smell of like lemon pledge kind of thing, but it's not like the fake lemon. It's like a real lemon, but it's just so, lemon permeates so much of
it's very pungent.
Yeah, and so it does kind of kill the blueberry flavor in it. Now that I've read it, I know there's supposed to be blueberry in it. I can find those hints of blueberry, but it's just not like really there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very astringent.
It doesn't taste like blueberry. It doesn't taste like lemon. It just tastes like some sort of citrus that's hard to place because it is just kind of not a real fruit.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not bad. It's just not. It's like mid. It's very mid for me. I'm the apple the cider, the CIDR, the one that I name like that one that I make has more apple flavor in it, and like things that I would think of as being notes like that. And I wonder if I could take that base and make a blueberry cider in the same sort of way.
Yeah, because I've made some things like that before. You definitely can.
Yeah.
I think maybe where this hits flavor profile for me, because I do really like it, is this is kind of like, it's a sour cider, but it's in that same sort of funkiness to the flavor that you get from like a beer that's sour. I think that's what the blueberry does for it, is it gives it that weird funkiness. You don't quite know what it is.
Yeah, and normally I like things like this, and maybe it's just hitting me wrong this morning. It's not what I'm in the mood for.
Well, it's sweet, which you're not the biggest fan of really sweet stuff.
I'm
and
not.
It's sour, but they're not at equal levels. So, like, it's a little bit more sweet than it is sour. The sour is strong, but it doesn't last. So you start sweet, it gets sour, and you end sweet.
I think it's also kind of one note. Like,
yeah, I can see that. There is that
and
one
I prefer
flavor.
complex things. Like, it just punches you with this one flavor and then goes away, but it keeps like a tartness on the tongue. I'm not like I said, I don't hate it. It's not like the Hopimus Maximus, you know, from that we had, and I was just like, God, I hate this so much. And you're like, why are you drinking? I was like, I'm punishing myself for picking this one, you know. Like, this one is not like that. It's just more like, I think if you really like sour beers, you probably would like this one. Like, if they're your favorite thing in the world, where this probably is like just a one and done kind of experience for most people that are just like, what does this sour cider taste like?
Yeah.
You know, I've had some other like Granny Smith ciders and some other things like that. Like when we went to California. We had that like
Mm-hmm.
cider run. Um, those were really good, and they had like way more developing flavors as they sit on your tongue. You know, like you went through all the different acids and everything
Yeah.
that were in the. This one just doesn't quite hit like that.
No, it doesn't. I think you're very right to call it out that it's fairly one note. It's not a very complex drink. I think where I see this fitting into like a routine is the like, we're gonna sit down, it's late at night, we're gonna watch a movie, we're gonna pop some popcorn, and I'm gonna have a glass of this. Because it is something that just accompanies you. It's not something that I'm gonna sit down and like maybe I'm gonna listen to music and me drinking this thing is a much larger part of my experience. As opposed to this is a drink that tastes good and I'm gonna use it to wash down whatever I'm eating.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, I could kind of see that. Like, um, I'm gonna have like a bowl of fruit and drink this with it, and it would kind of complement that flavor.
Yeah, or like
But
it
you
fits
know,
in my mind in the same place that a lot of those like pre-mixed cocktails and the like hard lemonades and stuff like that sit,
yeah,
where it's like something to drink that is something to drink.
I'm at a party, somebody hands me something, I'm just casually drinking it.
Yeah, or it's
Yeah,
just the thing you grab out of the fridge when you're about to have dinner or something like that
yeah,
if you want something alcoholic,
yeah.
you
See
know.
that doesn't work for me because
Yep.
I when I get something that I'm gonna have with dinner, I'm like, where does this pair with this? Like, do I
Mhm.
want to explore these flavors with this combo? Do I like garlic with this particular kind of wine or mead or whiskey? Like, I think about those things before I
Mhm.
pick my drink. But I can understand how somebody wouldn't do that. They would just be like, I want a blank,
Yep.
and I'm gonna drink that with my dinner. And I
Mhm.
could see that this going with that. Yeah. It probably would go okay with fish. Like if you had like a lightly breaded
Yeah.
fish that's like a white fish, probably would go okay. Like a tilapia or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be sacrilegious to say, but something that like you generally put a lot of lemon on, like a branzino or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
All right. So, do you have anything else you want to say about the cider?
No, I mean ultimately, I'd recommend it if you like that type of drink. But if it's not your thing, there's nothing extra to pull you in.
Yeah.
It does one thing well, and that's it.
Yeah. We'll come back to it at the end of the episode, see if it warms up a little bit,
Okay.
and then talk about it more. But let's talk about AI. So the setup for this discussion that we're going to have over the next 10 or so minutes is we work in at a company that uses AI now to make us more productive. We didn't like lose headcount for AI,
Hmm.
so like there's nothing like that that's happened yet. I don't know if it's coming, but so far we haven't, and I'm pretty staunchly against that. I'm just going to go on record right
Yeah.
now saying if people are getting fired because AI has come in, or that, like you're losing positions because of that, that's the wrong direction to go with this. But if you're trying to augment your workforce so you don't have to hire additional people to do like contractor roles or something like that because of
Hmm.
complexity, AI may be an enhancement for your workforce. It can also do things that are useful in many ways, like formatting things and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
that there is like a use case there. That's part of the discussion, but not really the discussion. We've been using it daily for months
Yeah.
now, and what are our opinions about just using it in the workplace as engineers and people leaders? Because I'm an engineer and a people leader, and you've pretty much positioned yourself just as a people leader at this point, right?
Yeah. People in business.
Yeah. So, what is from a people leader standpoint? How is it affecting your job?
I think, in all honesty, it has been a decent accelerator. For myself, I still do a lot of data work, a lot of like, hey, pull all these metrics together, and maybe this is something that we can't put easily into a dashboard because of where all the data sits and everything like that. And there is something very helpful about just being able to say, okay, here's all this data. I need you to group them into these logical groupings and do things like that. And it doesn't do it right the first time, hardly ever. You got to kind of
Mm-hmm.
manage it and push it where you want it to go. But considering my alternative to that is really sit down and write a Python script, and the Python script is great. It does exactly what I want. But if I time myself, it takes about 2 or 3 hours to get everything written and formatted the way I want. It takes closer to about 30 minutes to get a prompt to do it. In between having discussions with her, like, oh, that's close, or the revisions are also something that's very nice. If I get like my data out in Python and then I look at it and realize, that's actually not quite what I wanted, you have to go back and refactor a decent amount of code. Whereas for these AI agents, it's like, ooh, close, scratch that. What I actually want is this.
Yeah, this is good, but I would like to have this extra thing. Can you add that to it,
or often change what my thing is? I'll like we've got a lot of different topologies out there, some of which are non-standard. So when I go out and I'm trying to find how many users have that non-standard thing, I'm like, okay, and look for this hardware model, but not this other hardware model that's with it, and things like that. And that'll be like, cool, it gave me what I want. But then I sit down and look at the data, I'm like, oh shoot, there's this whole other thing I didn't know was there that also needs to be classified as a non-standard. For me to go change the logic to add that in takes longer for me to tell the prompt, oh, also, if you see this, that also counts as non-standard. Right. So there's like some decent acceleration there in just like data comparison. I'll say for like the engineers that I look after, like for the people side of that, like not my personal job, but how it's impacting the people that I interface with, it's been very good for lowering clerical work. There's a lot of that same thing as an operational team, checking dashboards for alerts, checking logs. And there's multiple meetings a day as we hand off from each regional team that do those things. We've now got skills built up so that it will go ahead and check all the stuff we want checked before, and then we're checking the readout. I don't see a place yet for my team where AI is greatly reducing like engineering workload. You've seen some things, we'll talk about in a second, but I've not seen anything massive. Really, where we're saving a lot of time is taking this group of engineers and making their meetings faster and making their, hey, I need to know, like a device is down, or maybe a device is flapping. How long has it been flapping? Let's go query essentially the log system. We're using Splunk, but anything that your AI's got access to. How has there been an uptick in this error in the last 7 days or something like that? And it can go grab that stuff for you while you're doing something else. And I think that's the value add. The engineer could go check it himself. That means he has to stop doing something to go check that. Whereas you can just be like, hey, query, go find that out for me while I check this other thing. And then you go back and check on it.
Yeah.
Things like that are useful. I'll say engineering front. And I know you've probably got a lot more to say about the engineering.
Oh, I definitely do.
There's only one real use case that I've seen worked really well for the engineering side. We've got a lot of different services under one roof, whereas you work with one service, and that's kind of where it sits in your local team. In the sense of that's like where you're having to maintain multiple code bases. You've got
I might disagree with you on that.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But we're starting to see things is we have the stuff we deploy in people's houses, we have the stuff that deploys in people's buildings. All of those scripts are separate. And sometimes we make a decision that says, hey, I want the stuff at home to look more like campus or vice versa. And so code has to be updated to make that thing work. And it's really easy to feed in on all the code bases and say, hey, this function, this like operation already exists over here. I need you to move it into this other script and then, do all the right calls to connect it together and stuff like that. Like take this already pre-existing behavior that's already been approved and written, move it over here and merge it.
Gotcha.
And that works pretty well. I think there's a lot of talk on code that's purely generated, like from scratch, and how well that works. But if you can give it entire, like, already functioning code bases, it can replicate your style really well. It can say, okay, already just over there, boom, plop it, make the calls in, or swap it out for something, because oftentimes that's closer to what it is. It's less just, oh, and here's a net new feature. It's replace this old thing with the new thing. And that works decently well. In terms of an accelerant, you still got to go through and check it. Sometimes you have to correct it. But it's a lot faster than having someone sit down and start doing the copy and paste.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see that, and it's probably more accurate, too.
Yeah, because, no offense to any of our engineers, I think this is a common thing in all kind of like engineering groups. You've got people at different experience levels, And to take code from one and move it to another, you're generally involving somebody that was heavily involved in at least one of those scripts.
Yeah.
Whereas in this sort of situation, you're reading in code bases, it kind of becomes a, hey, I can get anyone to go do that. And then they'll, run it locally or whatever they need to do to make sure it works. And then when they upload it, we'll put the people who are the real SMEs on the review board to review it and make sure it looks right. And that saves a lot of time on those more senior engineers and gives the lower level engineers, well, I guess the more junior engineers, something that they can work in with this code base without worrying about, I don't understand something about it.
Yeah. So, I don't disagree with that. I guess my perspective on it is I'll go back and I'll say something. You are right that we only have 2 code bases that we deal with. However, our code bases have to touch every other service that uses everything that's out there.
100%.
So while the context of the statement that you made, I think the spirit of it was right. Mm-hmm. Like, you guys have a whole bunch of other things that you're managing. We're not managing every aspect of all those other things. But my team is specifically touching all those other things, and we have to understand how our components fit in with them, which means a deeper level of understanding of what's going on with those environments.
Yeah. Your service looks a lot, in my mind, like a star. It's got all these points that stretches out and touches other things. Whereas the situation I'm in is almost like 2 Venn diagrams.
Yeah, and
where it's like 2 big blobs that overlap, and we keep debating how much they should overlap as we move them closer and further away from each other.
And we touch way more than your service.
Oh yeah, yeah, too. You've got little star points that hit both of them.
Yeah,
and then you're 100% right. You touch pretty much every other service that needs to do.
Yeah, so I think our code bases are inverted. You have like many code bases. And we have like 1 or 2, but they are very diverse. Where yours are more specified.
Exactly.
So that creates like 2 different complexities there. Having worked on the stuff that you're doing now, I used to work on there. I was one of the architects for that. That is, much more compacted. Like it is less complex.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So that is good, especially for like junior engineers to come up and learn. I mean, I cut my teeth on it. It was good for me. I learned so much. I learned a lot about security. I learned a lot about other things like that. It really made me the engineer I am today. One of the disservices I've seen with things like this, especially in newer people, and I've not just seen it in our space, but in like other spaces, is that you let the AI do the work for you, and then you kind of trust what the AI says, which is a direction that we've been told to go in a lot of ways, but it oftentimes isn't right the first time or even the second time. And so when you do that, you don't really you don't gain an understanding deeper, because you don't have that person sitting beside you that's a little bit more senior saying, no, don't do it like that. Because if you do it like that, even though that's written in this documentation that's public facing, our specialized use case won't work.
Yeah, no, it's a great call out, and I'm not sure we captured it in last season, but near the end of last season, we were doing interviews, and even outside of AI, that's a problem I've been seeing with more early in career people coming in. Is even before AI, a lot of stuff is tool based now.
Yeah.
We had people coming in with multiple years of experience in network troubleshooting that when we asked to go troubleshoot a problem without a tool, like let's just say you logged into CLI, they lost all understanding. I mean, even of very basic concepts like the network layers.
Yeah.
We asked a person like, hey, I want you to troubleshoot this problem from a layer 2 perspective. And they started with layer 7, then moved to layer 1, then moved to layer 3. They never even brought something up that could have been layer 2.
Yeah. And so for anybody that's out there that's like listening to this, we're talking about like at a layer 2, which is switching level, MAC addresses, anything like that.
Yeah.
So just to clarify.
To put it in perspective, that's what we're looking for. Like maybe there's like a Mac problem or something like that. And they went to, okay, well, I would like double check the application I'm using. Right, that's at the end. That's not what we're talking about. I would make sure it's physically plugged in. Okay, that's layer 1. That's not what we're talking about. And then we're going to do some ping, so straight to layer 3.
Right.
And again, this was not someone who didn't know what they were doing. This person had years of experience at a reputable company, but they're used to having a tool that pops up and tells them what's wrong.
Yeah.
And then they click a button that's kind of the way to resolve it.
Yeah.
And AI is moving us even further to that. It's basically bringing that sort of environment to more stuff that's less accurate.
Yes.
Because it's, you don't have to build that tool anymore. You can have it make inferences. And you're right. The only thing I really worry about with AI in the IT industry, apart from it replacing people's jobs, is what does our pipeline look like anymore of getting really senior, really knowledgeable people? Because the opportunity to just learn that stuff on the job is getting smaller and smaller. It is driving people more into textbooks, which there's nothing wrong with that, except that's not how a lot of people learn. And now we're telling people, hey, you're going to work a full-time job, but to really advance, you also need to be significantly, you've always needed to study some, but you need to be significantly studying about things that just will not show up in your day-to-day job until you get one of those higher level positions,
or until it just shows up, and then like you have to recall it. You never get the experience of dealing with it over.
That's true.
Yeah,
you don't get the hands-on. You just
So that's one thing. The other thing from an engineering standpoint is, well, I'll just give an example of a case I was working on the other day. Actually, I have two cases that I'll talk about. I don't normally do casework. I rarely do it. Sometimes when we get like more of a caseload, I would rather enhance my knowledge, learn more about like the code base that we're working on because I didn't write it, stuff like that. But I sat down yesterday. I was like, we've got a bunch of extra cases. Some of these are kind of because of a change that I was the person that oversaw and directed. I didn't implement it, but I was there. I kind of designed it, all that other stuff. And I sat down and I started going through the cases. And you know how, like, you've seen me work cases. I'm like, boom, 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 knocking them out. I got like 6 cases done in like an hour. And then I hit like a place where I didn't resolve them all, but I got like worked through them. Yeah. I got 3 or 4 done in like the next 2 hours. Resolved a bunch of cases that came through. Had to ask some questions, blah, blah, blah. Knocking it out. Get to this one case. It's like there's a camera DVR that's not able to reach another camera DVR. And the way that the case is written is really confusing. So I have to go through and kind of work it out. One of the people from your team had sent the case to our team, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And it was like, check the policy. So I was like, all right, this is a perfect chance for me to actually use our new AI agent that we have. And I sat down and I asked it. I said, hey, I've got this thing going on. This is the incident. This is the stuff. What's happening? And I gave it the information that I'd gotten. And it asked me for some more things. I prompted to get some extra things done there. And the first thing that it returned as like a problem was it was probably a firewall issue. And I was like, okay, we'll start looking at network firewalls in between. Okay. So then I was like, hey, well, tell me if there was like a change that like updated this, because this just suddenly stopped working. And there was some information in here that I didn't have, and I finally got it out from the client. But I'm working with the guy from your team. His name's CJ. I'm working with him, and we're battering back and forth. We're talking to the client, like it's pretty great. And I'm like, hey, this is saying this thing. Can you run a packet capture on the switch just so I can confirm that? And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. He gets on the switch and does that. And while that's running, I'm getting some other things. And I said, are there any other things that could happen? And it returns an error that immediately I'm like, oh, I go to our other architect and I'm like, hey, if this is doing this, I think it would block traffic. Is it doing this? And it's basically this thing where it's saying the switch fails to download the CTS environment. CTS is Cisco TrustSec, and it's failing to download that environment from the AAA server. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is possibly really bad. Let me go and see. Go to the switch and go to the logs in our log aggregator. It's not there. It just hallucinated it. It hallucinated like a whole list of things that like I was like, oh my God, we got like a big problem here. You know?
It probably lost your context. It
No,
stopped.
it did not. It remembered the context from before. It just hallucinated it.
Okay, yeah,
Just
that's rough.
straight up hallucinated it.
I was going to give it the doubt that it hit on the, oh, what else can cause it? Here's a big list of things that can cause it. It didn't make the connection of, oh, I should check the logs to see what else in the logs could have done it.
But it confidently told me that was the problem. It was like
Gotcha.
85%. This is a problem with it not download. That this is blocking the thing,
Yes.
and I was like, okay, so it is a policy problem. I'm gonna have to go do this. We're gonna have to open up an emergency CR. Blah 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 blah. We go and we check the switch. The switch is fine.
Yeah.
It's got the environment there. It's passing traffic like it's supposed to. After we run the packet capture and we do it, it turns out it's probably Windows firewall. It is a firewall problem. It's just not a network firewall problem, right? So go through, and the good thing that this AI agent did was give me a summary of all that.
Yeah.
And then I put it in the case notes. It made it easy to do all that stuff. So clerically, it was good and a time saver that I didn't have to go through and write all this stuff out myself. Bang on, awesome. First pass at the case notes, it wanted to include that stuff about the CTS logs, and I was like, no, that's not the problem. Take that out and put this other thing in. And I had to know that. I had to be experienced enough to go and do that. I imagine one of our more junior engineers who come to me, we got some new people working on our team. They come to me and they'll ask me questions about stuff like, how do I handle this case? And I'm like, how do you not know to contact did you contact the client?
Yeah.
No, go reach out to the client and ask them how they registered this, or ask them how they did this. Ask them, and I have to walk them through it. But I go back to my days when I was training. Remember when I trained you, and you'd ask me questions like that on our really really old team, and I'd be like, okay, I got to be patient. I can't let the grumpy man come out.
Well, it also helps that it was way earlier in career, or at least in seniority of position, that we were having those conversations, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that influence was when we were in the call center, and you didn't have a whole ton of experience yet. I had even less in a call center environment. I had a lot of IT experience, but not in the call center. But you're right. I think part of where IT maybe messes itself up a little bit is it does consider support a very different place than operational, which is very different than development. And so you get some people that pop into an operational team that are going to have to work support issues with no support experience.
Yep.
So it's not uncommon to see the first couple support levels of a case really nail the support experience, and then it gets up to the top level and it kind of falls apart. Yeah. That person was just like, oh, I've just been busy this week. It's like, so you haven't talked with the user at all in a week. But see, that user is having a problem that's impacting their job.
Right.
That's kind of more important than this other thing you're working on, because our job is to support the other employees. And I get what you're saying, you had a something due at a particular date, but operations probably comes first before this other thing.
Well, support comes first before operations, unless operations is broken, and then operations. So if a switch is down, if it's in a switch stack and everything else is working, you can fix that switch later. Just take it out of service. If the person can't get to an application and they need you to go help them figure it out, they come first before you deal with.
Yeah, restoration of service impact is what always has to come first. And there's a lot of different ways you can go about that based on what's wrong. But at the end of the day, our job is to keep people working. Right. And if there's something preventing somebody from working, that's generally a fairly large issue. Unless something is more broken, causing more people to not be able to work, that needs to be the priority. We don't get to sit down and do hey, we want to have this cool enhancement for ourselves to make our lives easier until we've got time, because nobody's broken. Right. Or at least there's not a large enough percentage of people that are broken that it's taking up all of our time. You fill up that space where you can. But you're 100% right on that. I think that's, having worked an outage recently with the help of AI, we saw a lot of that clerical add. It was great. I don't know how they did it, but you could add the chat agent to a WebEx room.
Yep.
And then it would just completely summarize everything. So
it's just stuff. You just add the token for your WebEx account.
So that was wonderful. Our summaries at the end were amazing, because it just read all this context over multiple days of people talking about stuff and correlated things and captures and stuff. And it was great for looking at logs when we asked it when we could be very specific and say, hey, I'm getting this type of error. We've seen an uptick in that? And it's like, oh yeah, on this day at this time was when it started massively increasing. And we're like, okay, that's probably where our problem started, and things like that. But you're right. I've not seen a very compelling use case for the actually tell me what's wrong, actually try and guide me through fixing this problem.
So I am going to give one example of where it did do a really good job.
Okay, awesome.
PCAPs. It does a really good job of, if you know what you're looking for in a PCAP.
Yeah, if you can guide it well enough.
Then it does a really good job of pulling that information out and making it less toil for an engineer in a troubleshooting scenario. So you remember the one that we worked on together, and at the very beginning I said something like, this seems like something that I'd experienced before. Talking about like a case we had with one of our engineers who was having like a problem connecting to their and the other engineer that was on the team that had experienced that, had worked on that, he said, yeah, but that was a MTU problem, and that shouldn't be happening here. And that was ultimately what the problem was, right? When we looked at the PCAPs and got the AI to go through it and then like point us towards the right direction, that was how we found that out. And we spent all day troubleshooting it, looking at other things and trying to figure stuff out. I think if we looked at old cases, because that was an experience thing on my part, right? Like I know and remember a lot of the things that have happened in the past when it comes to stuff. I have like all these notes on it. You know, I reference them, all this other stuff. That's what makes me kind of good at my job, right? But also, because we have those problems, we can enhance our ability to detect them faster I shouldn't say because we have those problems. Because we have that experience, we can detect and prove that that is actually the problem faster if we just explore that for 5 seconds with like a PCAP or something like that and have it analyzed from that context.
Yeah, I mean, which is a good point. I think also maybe there's something to be said about human process, because I was, as the kind of more the business leader, in and out of that problem, having to attend like other things. And I guess that conversation probably happened when I wasn't in the room, because
I don't remember if you were or you weren't, but whether you were or you weren't, we did bring it up, or I did bring it up.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Yeah. I just wouldn't have been there, because when I got in later and we were kind of now really doing the toil of, okay, what's going on? It got brought up again of, oh, okay, well, there's like a little MTU thing here maybe, but there can't be an MTU problem. And I remember sitting down saying, why can't there be an MTU problem? We know that sometimes things get funky when support makes changes. They don't understand what they're making. Yeah. Because we can't view that on our side, which is one of the things I think that took the issue so long, is with like a setting that only TAC can see. Said, let's just get TAC on the phone right now because I want to see it. And that's when they found the change, and that's when we fixed it up. But you were saying that, you know, even you brought it up earlier that could have potentially been a problem.
Yeah, at the beginning of the day, I brought it up. And if we had went, I think if the process was someone that's experienced brings something like that up, we instead of saying, no, that can't be the thing because we don't want to like go down the road of like exploring that or whatever. We just take a PCAP and give the AI the context and say, hey, is this possibly the problem?
Yeah, exactly. That would have saved a lot of time, because, you know, there's probably 6 hours, maybe longer, in between when that meeting started that day and when we ended.
Yeah.
You know, six man hours that could have been saved. Well, I mean, probably not that many. Probably closer to 4, because it took a while for TAC and the emergency CRs and all that stuff. But still, you know, that's half a day. Half a day could have been saved by having this process. And that's a good call. That's something AI could help with, because it's good at that clerical data analyst kind of stuff. If you give it enough context and enough like framing on what you want it to do, it can absolutely run through that PCAP would have been said, hey, you know, I'm not seeing a lot of places where like maybe MTU is exactly the problem, but what I am seeing is a lot of this packet's too big, so fragmented, but then we're never getting a fragment back.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what our problem was.
Yeah.
You know, because the MTU was lower than it should have been, but it wasn't so low that like it would have been a number that would have people thought it was crazy.
Right.
It's just that the particular traffic that we needed to pass cannot be segmented.
Yeah. So to clarify that a little bit, the traffic we're trying to pass was like a certificate, and the certificate couldn't be fragmented lower than a certain amount. I think it was like 1,200, and we were going 15 kilobits lower than that. So that made it so that the certificate would become would become dropped.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we were requesting it, and then it would send back the same thing because it couldn't make it smaller, and then eventually it timed out because we just kept retransmitting back and forth. But, yeah, so, like, I know now we probably ranted further on the topic than we anticipated, but I'll give you that. When people are starting to look at engineering work, we have to get out of the mindset of write me a thing that, like, write me an app that does X, or write me a network configuration that does this or that, because those are two open-ended goals. But when you can feed it something and say, hey, look, it's going to take me like probably a good 30-40 minutes to analyze this packet capture. Hey, here's this packet capture, and here are like the 3 things I'm looking for. Are any of those things happening?
Yeah.
It's going to get you that in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5-10 max, but that still saves you like 15-20 minutes.
Exactly. And then you know your answer, and you can be like, okay, and maybe you do decide to double check it. Maybe you take an extra 5 minutes to confirm, but that's still 15 minutes saved minimum.
And maybe 6 or 7 hours of troubleshooting down the road.
Exactly.
Because
you found it.
You just listened to somebody and went and did the thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I don't think we're at that place in AI yet where people want it to be or where people think it is.
Yeah.
Or at least we're not at the place that the vision that non-technical people have of what AI can do is the reality of what AI can do.
It's not Jarvis yet.
Yeah. But I do think we are in a significantly better place than a year ago in terms of being able to actually extract some value out of it.
I think so. I still think the investment for the value is not getting a good return on investment.
It's so expensive. Yeah. You know what? I might agree with that from a money standpoint of what's the value add of getting this AI working right now compared to if we had hired or trained more engineers. So 1 point to you on that one. I'll give you the money may not be worth it. You have to look at your individual use case.
The juice might not be worth the squeeze.
Yeah, but you're at least getting juice now.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe last time there wasn't any juice in my mind.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's going to be our next topic too. Mm-hmm. So let's hold off on that because there's some things about like how much money we're spending on that and what it's causing that I want to explore a little bit with you. Do you have anything else you want to say about like just us using AI daily?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we finally found that juice. We finally got some value, which is exciting. But I don't think I'm at a place yet where I would say AI is a necessary tool in the industry yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, I think it harms more than it helps right now because what we're doing is we're taking junior engineers that need to get experience so that they can be the next generation of great engineers. And we are taking away their experience and giving them books to learn from and saying, you have to be as good at this AI is perceived to be.
Yeah.
And that's just not reality. And I think smaller businesses are going to do well because they're going to get that talent and they're going to train those people and they're going to learn how to do those things because the smaller businesses aren't going to go all in on those AI things like that because they can't afford it. Anyways, so do you want to revisit this real quick and see how it's warmed up?
Yeah,
do you have a little bit of...
I don't have any left, so you can pour me some.
Yeah, let me pour you a little bit in here. So, no dead air. No dead air. All right. I let mine warm up a little bit in the glass. So it still has that funky metallic taste, which I don't mind, but it's like copper metal, like when you lick a piece of iron or something. Or I should say steel, not iron, because you shouldn't be licking iron. But I think it does open up a little bit more in terms of like getting some of those blueberry notes out of it. It's not really. It's still very one note though.
I think as it warms up, because the warmer it is, the sweeter it's going to be. It's a different balance of sweet to sour.
Yeah.
But I actually like a little bit less. I think I do prefer this one cold. I think it punches better when it's cold as opposed to when it's mellowed out because then it's just like the sweetness is more warm, so it doesn't like the sour doesn't pierce it as well.
Yeah.
So it's almost tastes less sour now that it's warmed up.
Agree with that. All right. Well, this has been Season 9, Episode 1 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. We're back for Season 9, and we'll catch you next time.